Good evening and welcome to this edition of the Hamilton Report. I'm Scott J. Hamilton, your host for this evening, and I'm very happy that you decided to spend a little time with us tonight. Typically, our broadcast features one topic or one guest dealing with a particular topic. Tonight's a bit different because I don't have a guest in with me, but what I do have is a long list of complaints that I need to share with you. I am increasingly concerned about the deaf ear that Republicans are lending to Oklahomans. It is at every level of our government where the people that we elected to serve are shortchanging Oklahoma families. They are hurting us with their policies, with their do-nothingness. And certainly, when they stand at the sidelines and throw apples at the president and congressional Democrats for doing the right thing in our infrastructure bill, all the while they've been asking for money for themselves, by themselves, for the state, now they had an opportunity to support this amazing piece of legislation. This is historic. And instead, every one of our U.S. congressional delegation and both senators, not one of them supported this critical piece of legislation. Now, I want to just go through some of the things that will be benefiting Oklahomans for years to come. And that is not hyperbole, it is the fact. In Oklahoma, we will receive $4.3 billion for roads. If you drive here in a rural county or in a major city, it doesn't matter. We all have the same road issues. I mean, sometimes the potholes are so big that it's impossible to swerve without hitting another car. $4.3 billion for roads. Another $266 million for bridges. Now, we've all seen the news of our bridges literally crumbling when you touch them. This $266 million is going to be truly important as we build our infrastructure in Oklahoma, give it the attention and the funding that it needs. Now, $354 million for improved public transportation. In Oklahoma City, the city council just announced over the weekend that there is a new bus rapid transit line that will be running in Oklahoma City. This is the first step of something that can potentially help so many people. But the public transportation money is not limited to Oklahoma City and Tulsa. This will be used for inner city transit as well as intercity transit. And it's a big boost for Oklahomans who don't drive or who prefer not to drive because they're protecting the environment. So $354 million for improved public transportation, $66 million for electric vehicle charging stations. Now, this is an important one too. Right now, we don't have an awful lot of electric vehicles, but planning to the future, we will need these charging stations around our state as tourists come through Oklahoma, as we try to get from one part of the state to the next, trying to go visit relatives out of state. It's important that we have these rapid charging stations. And so $66 million will be applied to that. And another $100 million for reliable high-speed internet service. Do you know that a big portion of Oklahoma cannot watch this broadcast tonight because their internet is too slow, it's too unreliable, it's unavailable, or it's unaffordable? $100 million will help bring particularly our rural communities into a whole new era when it comes to education, when it comes to being able to work remotely, when it comes to distance learning. So $100 million, that's a big investment. These are numbers that we should all be excited about. The Republicans are not. They simply chose not to support this effort. I wish I could say I was surprised, but they're in a powerful company when you consider other Republicans right here in our state. Yeah, these folks are all from Oklahoma, but they've allowed their big salaries and their DC lifestyles to cause them to forget that they are there to represent people like you and me, Democrats and independents and Republicans and libertarians, all of us who call Oklahoma home. But let's bring it down a little bit. Let's talk about our current governor and hopefully our temporary governor. This man will stop at nothing for a photo opportunity. It has become laughable to see his daily posts on social media where he's here and there and speaking here and shaking hands there. He went to Mexico City to work with the government there, all the while forgetting that we in Oklahoma have issues that we need to be dealing with right now. You know, he's had his attorney general, his hand-picked attorney general, who by many standards is not up to this job, to sue the Biden administration over vaccine mandates. This is a very big issue, and I'm not going to debate the pros and cons except to say I am grateful that I have my vaccines. I'm grateful that my family and my friends do as well. I'm grateful that I belong to a collective community of people who care not just about themselves, but about each other. And we talk a lot about the Oklahoma Standard. That is what the Oklahoma Standard should be, where we care for our neighbors, where we take care of our loved ones, our teachers, our public servants. But instead, this has become a battle cry of the right. They don't want to take them because they don't know what's in the vaccine. You probably don't know what was in your gin or what your omelet held this morning at a diner somewhere. You don't know what was in the measles vaccines that you got as children, or mumps, or chicken pox, and yet thousands of lives a year are being lived and lived well because of vaccines. But for him to just keep grandstanding this thing over and over and over, yeah, he and his wife were anti-vaxxers. They didn't vaccinate their children when they were kids. If you remember at the beginning of the pandemic, he showed his family without masks in a crowded restaurant telling people, oh, come on out, the weather's fine. Well, unfortunately, the weather wasn't fine then, and it's gotten worse. How many Oklahomans have died as a result of COVID? We could have stopped this a long time ago if we had true leaders in this state. Instead of focusing on what's here, what's the matter right now, while he's off showboating from one corner of the state to the other, what is he doing? What is he saying? And what is he preparing to do next week? Julius Jones, who we talked about last week with Jimmy Lawson, is scheduled to die next week. I haven't heard the governor say anything about it. Sadly, it all rests in his hands now. You know, there was a deputy sheriff that went missing a couple of weeks ago, and they were able to find him, and he was they found the guy they were looking for. Before any of that, though, he posted on social media, oh, we're praying for the families involved here, and even quoted scripture. But that was the same week that he let an Oklahoma man die, that he essentially killed him. We cannot allow that to happen next week with Julius Jones. But who knows where he'll be next week? Will he be talking at a conference or putting on his cowboy hat and having a fake barbecue on the side of a highway somewhere? That's more his speed. He's not a leader. And if we didn't learn anything from the last president, we don't need a businessman with no political experience whatsoever trying to run our state. And that's what we have been forced to endure under Stitt. I am so weary of his do-nothingness, of his seeming lack of care about the ordinary folks of this state, the people who put him in office in the first place, the people who pay his salary, the people who contribute every day from their income to pay for the governor's mansion. Well, I'm tired of Stitt. He has got to go. Why am I bringing all this up now? I'm bringing all this up now because, as our chair says, every single day we are in campaign season. We are always in campaign season. It's true. We're 1 year away from our midterms, but there's a lot to be done in this next year if we want to get rid of people like Stitt. I'm going to go back to Washington for a moment because Kevin Hern, you don't hear much about him, do you? I don't. Certainly nothing ever positive that he's accomplished in Congress. Held a press conference and was all puffed up saying how he will never vote to fund the U.S. Department of Labor because of vaccine mandates. This is childish. It's a temper tantrum. It's showboating, and it has no place in your life or mine. I believe in vaccine mandates. That's the only way we're ever going to come out of this thing that we're in, this new normal that our kids are growing up with. I don't like it for them, and I don't like it for you or for me. But for him to flat out declare he will never vote to fund the U.S. Department of Labor. Does he have any idea how crippling that would be to American families, how unstable that would make our workforce in this country? I'm sure he doesn't. I'm sure he hasn't given it thought much past his press conference, after which I'm sure he got lots of pats on the back and people just praising him for his being brave. Well, buddy, it's not brave for you to just stand in front of a camera. That's not bravery. Bravery is doing the hard things, like, I don't know, maybe taking care of the people who sent you to Congress in the first place. How do these people sleep at night? They either have no conscience or they have put it so far away that they may as well not have one. Let's talk for a minute about James Lankford. Now, that is as worthless a person in the United States Senate as I can ever imagine. I mean, he's beyond the pale when it comes to espousing Christian values, but then acting in a way that is anything but. He also said no to the Biden infrastructure plan. Now, if it had been some other name on that plan, would he have voted for it? Only if it was an R. Only if it was an R beside their name. It's time for these people to quit playing politics, to quit pandering in the most despicable kind of way. The chair of the Oklahoma Republican Party has the audacity not to recognize President Biden as our president. He foolishly calls him former Vice President Biden. He is still peddling the big lie. Folks, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, people aren't believing that anymore. How could they believe that anymore? My gosh, I know, but they do, and they are. You heard about the QAnon sect last week who gathered in Dallas awaiting the return of John F. Kennedy Jr., and when he didn't show up, they said, well, he'll be here later tonight. And some of them are still in Dallas waiting for him to come back to life and run as vice president on a Trump ticket. You can't make this stuff up. What is it that drives people to such lunacy? I do not pretend to understand. But I will tell you, unless or until we collectively make our voices heard, and I mean at the ballot box, but I also mean every day up until the election, calling our elected officials and putting them on notice, telling them what we need, because clearly they don't read enough or listen to reliable news to know that Oklahoma families are suffering. It's a shame. But what's an even bigger shame is the way our legislature has for months been having these listening sessions about redrawing our congressional lines in Oklahoma. Yeah, they've had the listening sessions, but they did not expose the map until last week. And so now all those listening sessions are over, and we're left with a map. I'll tell you where I live. I live in the urban core of Oklahoma City. It's a progressive community, but right smack in the middle of Oklahoma City. Their proposed redrawing of the congressional districts would move me from CD5 to CD3. Where is CD3? It's the Panhandle. It's Weatherford. It's everything west of Yukon. Now, we all share some common goals. We all believe in good education, quality health care. We believe very much in providing economic opportunity for all of Oklahoma's citizens. But when it comes to the things that affect us day by day, my needs are very different from someone who lives in Texas County in the Panhandle. Their needs are very different from my neighbors. And so it makes no sense. And as frustrating as that is for me, let me tell you what they've done with South Oklahoma City. They've taken Oklahoma City's largest Latinx community, and they've just pulled out a portion of South Oklahoma City, carved right up through it, and moved them to a new congressional district too, watering down the voice of brown people. They have stood firm in the belief that they will choose who they want to vote for them. It's taking away something that is so critical to our democracy. We talk about we need more people involved. Yeah, one of the quickest ways to get people uninvolved and people just not caring anymore is when you treat them in a way that, mark my words, it will be unconstitutional because they cut South Oklahoma City the way they did in an effort to purposely silence Latinos. I could go on and on and on, but I think you're getting my point. And that is this: if we don't raise our voices, Julius Jones will die. Call the governor's office. Pick up the phone. You won't be on the phone 30 seconds. Just ask the governor to please commute Julius's sentence because there is too much doubt about his guilt. It's going back 22 years. Governor, do the right thing. But it's not just the governor. It's your elected representatives as well. Chances are very good if you live in Oklahoma, you have a state representative and or a senator who are Republicans. That's just the lay of the land right this minute. But they still have to take your calls. And so call them. Tell them that this map that they've come up with is of no use to the people. It benefits only them. You know, power is a funny thing, or perceived power is actually even more dangerous because there's no real power, but there is always that grab for more. And these people have a very, very heightened sense of self. Now, this is not the the show perhaps that you were expecting tonight, but it's something that I needed to share with you. Because if we don't know what's being done to us, all in the name of something being done for us, it's what's being done to us that will hurt us for generations, that will keep Oklahoma at the top of the list of joking states. Oh my, the email that I get every single week from people outside of Oklahoma saying, how can you do this? How can you live there? You know how? Because this is home. It may not be for the rest of my life, but it certainly is now. It's where I grew up. It's where I earn my living. It's where I have my family. And so I'm not going to stop fighting. I already know who some of the candidates that I'm personally supporting for next year's elections. And I hope that you do too. There's a really good way to stay updated, and that is if you tune in at 4:15 every day to the same station that you're watching now, whether it's on Facebook or on YouTube. Every day at 4:15, our chair, Alicia Andrews, comes on and gives us updated information. Sometimes it's 5 or 6 minutes. Sometimes it's 10 or 12 minutes. But it's a great use of your time. And if you can't watch it at 4:15, you can watch it anytime. Just go to the same place where you're watching this broadcast tonight, and you will see it, that it's available to you. You know, it's going to be a long year. There's no way around that. But we, as Democrats, are doing the right thing for Oklahomans and for Americans. And all but the hardest of hardheads will have to recognize that. What the president has done in 10 months of job creation is more than his predecessor did in 2 years. Somehow that's just swept away as if it's not a big deal. It is a big deal. It's a huge deal because our neighbors are working. Our friends are working. Thank you, President Biden, for that. But if you're as tired of Oklahoma's delegation to Congress who will not listen to anything we have to say, then it's time to get busy right now electing new representation. We have already, and we are months from the filing deadline, we are being blessed with so many candidates up and down the ticket, people who are raising their hand and saying, I'm in. I don't even care what it's for. Show me where you think I fit in, because I need to do something to help my community. I need to do something to make my state better, stronger, healthier. It's not too late for you, too. If you have ever thought about running for office, now is the time to give that even more consideration than ever before. Alicia Kelly Sullivan, one of our viewers tonight, is saying that she's exhausted. I get it. But that's why I'm giving you all of this to think about right now, so that we can let this mature in our thinking to the point where it doesn't make us exhausted, but instead makes us revitalized and recommitted to doing what we know is the right thing. I'm tired of churches who do everything political except the right thing. I'm tired of people who are elected to office again and again and again only to fatten their wallets. No, it's time for change, Oklahoma, and we have the power to make it happen. Alicia Andrews last week talked 2 days on her live about hope. And I have to agree. We have hope. And last week, the events of the Virginia election, it had a lot of Oklahomans wringing their hands saying, oh man, then what possible way do we have of getting a Democrat elected? Well, Oklahoma and Virginia are two very different places. Our economies are different, our voter needs are different, and our voters are different. So one thing doesn't have to have anything to do with the other. I'm saying that to say, let's focus on what we can do. And there's so much that we can do together. And I appreciate you watching tonight. I appreciate you sharing this with your friends. I appreciate you sharing Alicia's live with your friends, because the more people who see and hear and listen to what the Oklahoma Democratic Party is saying, then I believe we have an even stronger chance of getting the elected officials that we truly do deserve right here in Oklahoma. Politics, it's a strange beast, but it is tameable. Oh, it may never be warm and fuzzy, but it certainly can be something that changes the way that Americans live for the better. Politics can do a lot, but unless we decide that we are going to get behind our candidates and give them all the support we can, financially, volunteering, knocking doors, mailing postcards, picking up the phone to call friends. There are so many ways to help. And you can do that by going to our website, okdemocrats.org, signing up to volunteer, or if you are considering becoming a candidate, fill out the information on the website. It doesn't commit you to anything, but it allows you to have someone to explore your options with. Someone from staff or me or Alicia Andrews will reach out to you quickly, because we need you. We need Oklahoma to live up to its potential. And that can happen if all of us keep focused on what we can do, keep focused on what needs to be done, and keep focused on putting a dismal past behind us and working toward a future of promise, of hope, a promise of Oklahoma being a place where people wouldn't mind coming to live and stay here the rest of their lives, a place that we feel good about raising children or sending them to school, a place that offers good jobs so you can work one job to pay for your rent and your food and your car note. I'm not sure what the American dream is anymore. It's changed for all of us over time. But our dream as Oklahomans needs to be one that we share. And that is this, that we will take control of our future, that we will make this a brighter place, that we will retire those people who don't care about Oklahomans and put someone in their jobs who truly do. Thank you so much for being with us tonight and listening to me. I had a lot I needed to say, and I'm glad that you were here to hear it. We'll be back next week with a guest and a new topic, but this is one I will come back to, because we have to work together if we want things to be the way we know they can and should be. I'll be back again next Monday evening at 6:30. Tomorrow night, I'll be with our good friends in Garfield County, in Enid. If you're up in that part of the state, I hope that you'll come out and join us tomorrow evening at 7 o'clock. From all of us at the Hamilton Report and the Oklahoma Democratic Party, I thank you for being with us. I'm Scott J. Hamilton. Good night.